The Commander starters gave us a glimpse of perfection while the backups delivered a harsh dose of preseason reality. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I'm David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9 and doing it right here with you 5 days a week. You can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. You can follow me on X at DHarrison82. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view. And a special thank you goes out to all of the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode. Anybody out there, if you haven't already, please subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this post-game episode following the Washington Commanders preseason game against the Cincinnati Bengals. If it's your first time coming through, thanks for finding the show. Hopefully you like what you hear and you come back for more. Coming up on today's episode, we are going to give our post-game 3 stars play of the day like we always do for every game. We're going to talk about some troubling truths that were exposed in this preseason game, but we're going to kick it all off with the first team offense and defense doing mostly really good things. The offense doing nothing but good things, but the defense doing mostly nothing but good things. All that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the promo code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. The main takeaway from the Washington Commanders preseason loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, one drive, maximum impact. They were here for a good time, not a long time. The Washington Commanders starting offense led by Jayden Daniels, one series, and they were done for the night. I don't know if that was the original plan or if it's because Jayden Daniels took a little bit of a hit there at the end of the drive, and Dan Quinn was like, no, buddy, if you're going to do that, we're just going to go ahead and pull the plug on it right now. Whatever the cause was, either way, at the end of the day, one drive only is what the Washington Commanders starters got. But it was about as flawless as you can possibly get in a drive that featured 0 passes. Yet your quarterback still was one of the featured stars of the drive, right? Dan Quinn said that the starters would get a quote unquote few series. He also warned us, don't go on an extended popcorn break or snack run or anything like that. And sure enough, if you miss the first series for the Washington Commanders, then you missed your opportunity to watch Jayden Daniels play, at least in real time. Today's technology, there's always replays and all that stuff, so you can still see it. But the drive looked like this. 4 plays, 74 yards, a minute and 51 seconds taken off the clock by the first team offense. Very first play of the game, Deebo Samuel, 19-yard end around the right side of the formation. Ben Sinnott and John Bates, the 2 tight ends, with downfield blocks, clearing the way for Deebo Samuel. And then the next play right after that one, Chris Rodriguez Jr. said, nice 19-yard run, Deebo. I'm going to up you, and I'm going to get 40 on his first carry of the game. Key blocks on that one coming from center Tyler Biadasz and tight end John Bates. Actually caught up with Tyler Biadasz after the game a little bit, not recorded, but we're just talking about blocking and everything. And I asked him kind of how to describe the best way to describe the blocking scheme, the blocking technique that he and John Bates kind of, teamed up on. And he had a hard time coming up with an explanation that wouldn't kind of tip some of the game plan, tip some language that the team uses. So he and Nick Allegretti were sitting there with me. We're gonna catch up on Wednesday and kind of talk about that a little bit more, see if we can get some explanation out here, see if we can get some information out here that doesn't compromise the team's strategic integrity. So more to follow on that one here later in the week. But Jayden Daniels, didn't have to do a whole lot of work yet. He did cap off the drive with a 14-yard touchdown scramble. The only play that he dropped back to pass on was the 4th one. The 3rd play of the drive after the Chris Rodriguez 40-yard run was another Chris Rodriguez run. That one went for about a yard. But Jayden Daniels dropped back to pass on the 4th play of the drive. Really good protection up front, had all the time in the world. Couldn't find anybody open, so he decided to take off and run. We were all hoping that he would get down and slide as Bengals defenders were kind of coming towards him, but he didn't. He, the competitive juices were just flowing, right? First live action of the year for Jayden Daniels, and he was ready to take whatever the Bengals defense was going to dish out. Fortunately, and, I don't know that this Bengals defender is going to not hear an earful and tape review when they get back home, but the Bengals defender certainly pulled up did not lay a hit that he could have laid on Jayden Daniels. I'm going to chalk that up to a little bit of preseason fraternity of football players into effect there. But for whatever cause, Jayden Daniels, 14-yard touchdown scramble, gets into the end zone. Later on there, shortly after that drive, the TV broadcast showed it. We got a text message from the sideline about it. Jayden Daniels running off the field into the locker room. Fortunately, quick updates. He just got to go to the bathroom. No big deal. So nothing to worry about there. But the offensive line, really, really good blocking up front, helping to create huge running lanes. Again, the tight ends got involved there as well. But the offensive line just in general had a really, really good first drive of the game. And it was the only drive of the game for the first team offensive line. Josh Connerly getting starting right tackle reps with Laramie Tunsil not playing. Also got second team right tackle reps. So Josh Connerly Jr. getting some good work on Monday nights. Starting defense, they played a little bit more. Starting defense for the Washington Commanders played 2 series. No Trey Amos. And this was something that I was a little bit concerned about. Didn't see Trey Amos out there for practice leading up to the game. And it's preseason, so we never really get a full explanation on why players are missing from practice. You pretty much assume a rookie is not getting a veteran day off, right? So when you see a rookie missing practice, it typically means that there's some sort of injury, whether it's serious, whether it's not serious, whatever it is. We don't have an official word on what's going on with Trey Amos. All we know is wasn't at practice leading up to the game, did not dress for the game. He was at the stadium, but he's wearing a Washington Commanders windbreaker, rain jacket, whatever it is. I was in the stadium early enough to watch some of the early game warm-ups and workouts, and typically during this period of time, the rehab players are also working out with trainers on the field and doing as much as they can to continue their work towards getting back on the field. Trey Amos, not one of the players working out with the trainers, which actually at the time kind of gave me a little bit of hope that, okay, maybe he's going to be able to play, but then he wasn't able to play. So, you don't want to read too much between the lines, but when you say he didn't work out with the trainers before the game, but he also didn't dress and play in the game, it just kind of tells you potentially there's an injury there that is preventing him right now from doing physical activities, just kind of in general. The good news is, and I showed insiders this, we had our pregame Zoom, which we resumed this season, and got to show them, Javonte Jean-Baptiste working out, Brandon Coleman, Jordan McGee, all working out with the rehab staff before the game, and just kind of got to show them in real time, like, this is the difference between, a normal person injury and a football player injury, things like that. Those guys are certainly out there doing things with the rehab staff that a lot of normal people just wouldn't be able to do at their healthiest, let alone playing football. So that was an unfortunate early update from the Commanders defense, but they did face Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Chase and Higgins were only out there for 1 series. Joe Burrow was out there for multiple series. Starting defense was out there for 2. That first series, there was a 25-yard pass interference call against Noah Igbenogany. And, look, if you're an everyday, you're going to remember me saying Noah Igbenogany, pretty much good for a DPI, defensive pass interference flag, just about every single game. Was flagged for that, put the ball at the Washington 4-yard line for the Bengals. 4 plays later on 4th down, the Cincinnati Bengals able to score a touchdown. It was the first touchdown of the game. The good news, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins combined for 1 catch for 11 yards. So there is that as well. So successful dress rehearsal. If this is the last we see of the starters, which is certainly possible, you like for the most part what you saw on the field. The starters' brief appearance, certainly the high point of the night, but was not the only player, or they didn't feature the only player that had a really good night for Washington. So more on this game coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by FanDuel. And folks, after watching that game, I know your mind is racing with predictions for the upcoming season, and you're in luck because August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or if you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this will be your moment. And after seeing Jayden Daniels tonight in his brief appearance, you got to be intrigued. For my MVP pick, I'm leaning towards Jayden Daniels. I think he can become that next quarterback to win an MVP in his second season. So go ahead, crown your champion in August or your MVP, whatever it is. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is 1 day and 1 day only at FanDuel. Play your game. Before the Washington Commanders preseason bout against the Cincinnati Bengals, we laid out some key storylines that we were going to watch for this game, from trade rumors to roster battles. And this matchup against the Bengals provided some pretty clear, in some cases, answers. In some other cases, some pretty concerning answers. Let's start with Brian Robinson Jr. The running back did not play, did not suit, did not show for the game in Landover. All the reports coming out, again, like I said, insiders, we've been talking about this for a little while now. I know that, at least one other reporter kind of mentioned on their show that they didn't think B-Rob was going to be around. And then Jordan Schultz kind of dropped the official, breaking reports just, the day before the game, saying that he had been told, he's got sources saying that Brian Robinson Jr. is being shopped by the team and that it's been going on for at least a little bit of time. And then on Saturday or a Monday morning, Monday early afternoon, maybe, it was revealed that Brian Robinson Jr. would not dress, would not play in the preseason game, which pretty much all confirms that the team is intending on trading him. Whether it means they have a trade set up, a trade partner already established, all those things, not really sure. I kind of warned insiders, like, look, the news come before the game. Honestly, the news could come during the game. The news could come even after the game. And honestly, when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals depth chart, they're a team that could potentially be in the market to trade for Brian Robinson Jr. They're an AFC team. You're not going to play them unless you see them in the Super Bowl after this preseason game. So it's the type of team that you would like to send a player to, depending on what the draft pick compensation or whatever the compensation might be. Again, no report on that, just speculation. When you look around the league at teams that could potentially use a running back, they have Chase Brown, who they really like. But could they use a guy like Brian Robinson Jr. to kind of pair with him? Certainly they could do that. A lot of NFL teams, if not most NFL teams, are moving to a multiple back set or multiple back approach to maximize touches, spread the wealth a little bit, maintain health a little bit as well. But certainly there's a good amount of teams out there that could use a running back like Brian Robinson Jr. If the Washington Commanders are not going to continue their process with him, then they shouldn't have any trouble finding people to have the conversation with. The question is, are they going to find somebody to give them the draft compensation that they want for him? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. But after being in the stadium, talking to some people, things like that, pretty much, it's pretty much what we expected. Brian Robinson Jr. just not going to be a part of the Washington Commanders moving forward. I would be surprised if the trade doesn't go down before Wednesday. I think the team is going to want to kind of get this over with sooner rather than later. However, at the same time, a lot of times in these situations, the only place the general manager can rush to is rush to failure. So Adam Peters certainly should be taking the time he needs to make sure that he gets the best deal out of this for himself. And then, of course, being set Brian up for a place that could potentially accentuate his talents, that would be cool too. So next thing that we talked about before the game was some roster bubble players. And we talk about the secondary. We wanted to look at the secondary in general against Jamar Chase and against T. Higgins. But you're also looking at the secondary just as a whole, right? The depth players, see how deep this pool really is. And after New England and now after Cincinnati, when you look at the depth of this team, certainly not coming away super impressed. Pretty much struggled all night. Mitchell Tinsley, former Washington Commanders receiver, Penn State product, all that stuff, really just had his way with the backup DBs on the Washington Commanders roster. 5 catches, 73 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns coming up against Bobby Price, and the other touchdown coming up against Carlin Viggers. The one against Carlin Viggers, man, I mean, he just mossed Carlin Viggers, right? And Carlin Viggers he's had a pretty good camp. He's looked pretty solid at UDFA. Certainly a guy that you see the potential in him. You still do, right? I mean, everybody's entitled to a bad night here and there, but the depth of the secondary certainly not where you want it to be. Talked to Jeremy Reeves after the game, and he talked about cleaning up mistakes and doing all these things. I asked him, after the Patriots game, a lot of the conversation was about discipline, mental errors, especially in the penalties. I asked if he thinks they took a step in the right direction in this game, and he said he did think that they did. But they still have a lot to go. We'll have the full conversation with Jeremy on the next episode of Locked On Commanders. Got that saved up for you guys. We'll run that through. Next up, backup quarterbacks, not really good all across the board, but Josh Johnson, certainly the veteran, looked better than Sam Hartman, the second-year quarterback. Josh Johnson finished 6 of 9, so decent enough completion percentage, especially for his few passes he threw. 56 yards, but he did have an interception. The interception looked to be a miscommunication between he and Jalen Lane. I can't tell you definitively who messed that play up, but typically the veteran quarterback probably not going to be the guy that messed it up over the rookie wide receiver. It was also a fumbled snap that he recovered himself. Sam Hartman, very difficult night, 4 for 10, 29 yards on those 4 completions and an interception, a pretty bad interception. The ball was late. The ball was off target. Pretty easy interception by the Cincinnati Bengals linebacker that picked it off. And look, Sam Hartman certainly has some redeeming qualities, all those things, but I think through 2 preseason games, through the practices, through the joint practice with the New England Patriots, I'm pretty confident in saying that Sam Hartman is not the 3rd best quarterback on this roster. I think Josh Johnson is clearly the 3rd best quarterback on this roster. So Jaden Marcus, Josh Johnson, and Sam Hartman on the practice squad, pretty much the same arrangement that the Commanders had last year, except it was Jeff Driscoll instead of Josh Johnson. I think that's probably the best route to go if the Commanders decide to bring Sam Hartman back to the practice squad again. Certainly wouldn't be against it. I just don't think that he is ready yet. A lot of us had high hopes for him. A lot of us had, want to see the opportunity, certainly gotten the opportunity, but just has not proven to be that 3rd best quarterback on this team. And then finally, the penalty problems, right? The good news this week is that the team finished only 7 penalties, 74 yards, a big improvement over the 15 penalties that they had in New England. However, those penalties still coming in very inopportune times. One of them, that defensive pass interference against Noah Igbenogany that we talked about to set the Bengals up at the 4-yard line, led to their first touchdown. And then there was another one, a false start. The Commanders facing 4th and 3 in the red zone. They were going to go for it. They end up with a false start instead, and it turns that into a field goal, potentially taking 4 points off the board. So some of the things that we were looking for in this game that we got to see, we broke down the good, the bad, and the team from the team perspective. But now let's focus on the individual moments that stood out. After the break, we're going to hand out some game balls to our 3 stars. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Game Time. If you ever get that last-minute urge to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe with Game Time, you can suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, you can get there. That's exactly what Game Time is for. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. Buying tickets is fast and simple with Game Time, and prices on Game Time actually drop on the app as you get closer to kickoff, and it got incredible last-minute deals. I love that you can clearly see your seat view right next to you in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting into when you get those tickets to the next Commanders game or whatever event you're going to next. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Get your last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Every game has plays and players that rise above the rest. Well, we're going to start by highlighting the single most explosive play of the night. And then we're going to count down our 3 stars of the game. Look, it's preseason, right? So even though the Commanders lost, we didn't do this for the Patriots game. The Patriots game, there was 2 Patriots stars and then 1 Commander star because they lost and all that stuff. But this one is really a tale of 2 different games, right? When the starters were in, basically the Commanders won that thing 14-7. After the starters left, then things got, certainly went the Bengals' way, all that stuff. So our 3 stars are all going to be Commanders. Our play of the game is certainly a Commanders play. Chris Rodriguez Jr., 40-yard run, set up the first touchdown of the game for Commanders. It's by far the most explosive play of the night for the Commanders, setting up that first touchdown. Off the right side, Tyler Biotish, John Bates teaming up for a critical block set there that really sprung Chris through the line of scrimmage into the open field. So certainly that play is going to be our play of the game. And then our 3 stars, again, if you're new to the show, or if you just need a refresher, we go 3rd star, 2nd star, 1st star. 1st star is the best star. 3rd star is the least best star, but still one of the best stars. Doing it kind of hockey style. Typically we go with at least 1 enemy player, but because it's preseason, like I said, we're just going to stick to the Commanders here. 3rd star is Ja'Cory Bill Croskey-Merritt. Scored one of the team's 2 touchdowns, first touchdown of his NFL young career. Not going to officially count in the stat book, but it's still there. 27-yard touchdown run, finished 2nd on the team in rushing yards. And even on that play, we got to praise the blocking, right? Andrew Wiley and Chris Paul left tackle, left guard, respectively, both pulling from the left to the right side, really cleared the way for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt to be able to hit the open field, get that first touchdown. He wasn't thinking about it, so he gave the ball back to the ref, went to the sideline. Jayden Daniels comes off the sidelines like, no, we need that ball. We got to get that ball for the rookie running back. So he secured that ball for Bill. I'm sure that Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt is going to appreciate that move by his quarterback, fellow young player by his quarterback. Second star of the game, running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. led the team 62 rushing yards on 6 carries, averaged over 10 yards per attempt. Of course, 40 of them coming on that one rush. But Chris Rodriguez Jr. continuing to basically do what Chris Rodriguez Jr. does, and that is produce. When you put him on the field, that man gets yards. That man fights for yards, competitive spirit, all that stuff. And he's certainly looking faster, certainly looking more nimble this year after spending the offseason doing what his coach Steph asked him to do, get a little bit slimmer, a little bit more compact, a little bit more agile. So certainly Chris Rodriguez Jr. getting some first-team reps. That's something that you like to see if you're a Chris Rodriguez guy, which I know that a lot of my insiders are Chris Rodriguez Jr. people. I've made no secret here. He's one of my favorite players in the locker room just as a young man, so really happy to see him get that opportunity to ball out. I was texting with him just a little bit after the game, just congratulating him. Certainly got the vibe that he was in pretty high spirits, celebrating with his loved ones after a very strong game. Looking forward to catching up with him on Wednesday as well. Number one star is going to be your quarterback, Jayden Daniels. It's only one flawless series, right? Didn't have to throw any passes, but commanded the offense. It came out there, executed. He made sure everybody's in the right places, doing all those things. Finishes it with a 14-yard run for a touchdown. Certainly would love to see him get down. Look, if he's on your fantasy roster, which I have every plan of making him make sure he's on my fantasy roster this year, just like he was last year, you love the touchdown points, buddy. But I would love to see healthy for the next down, the next series, the next game more. So let's go ahead and get down. I'm sure Dan Quinn had a conversation with him about that. Speaking of Dan Quinn, we're going to break down all of his post-game press conference comments. Jayden Daniels spoke to the media as well. Jeremy Reeves, we've got a recording with, and all kinds of other good stuff. Josh Connerly came by to speak. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, I'll be honest with you guys, that scrum around Bill was so big. I saw the WSA9 camera in there. I said, you know what? WSA9, we work together here. As you know, I cover the team for WSA9 as well. I'm going to let you guys be our presence in the scrum. I backed out to give other people more room to get in there. So I'm working on securing that footage. As soon as I can get that, we'll throw that on the show as well. So a lot of post-game comments, information, further breakdown this game coming up for the next episode of Locked On Commanders. In the meantime, if you got questions, comments, or you want to have conversations with this about this outside the show, all you got to do is become a Locked On Commanders insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. And not only can you text me, I'm going to text you, but you can also participate in our pregame and postgame Zoom conferences. We jump on Zoom for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes before and after every game, or at least I should say most games. Every once in a while, we have to cancel one or the other for extenuating circumstances. But for the most part, before and after every game, we just get together, man. It's a bunch of Commanders fans. It's me. We're just in there. You can ask your questions, share your opinions, have some conversation. Always respectful, of course. It's a lot of fun. So join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders if you want to get involved in that today. NFL fantasy draft season is here. So for your second listen, go find Locked On Fantasy Football with Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk. Listen every day as you prep for your fantasy draft, become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's championship this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, to the everydayers, I see you, I appreciate you, and I give you a big special thank you for coming through yet again for this episode. Until next time, everybody out there, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.